Hello and welcome to our UGA Sports YouTube page. That's Brent Rollins. I'm Dayne Young. We're the Film Don't Lie guys at UGAsports.com. Continuing our series, The Top Returning Bulldogs According to PFF Grades. And so when we're doing this series, we're going to remind you every time before we do it that this is not who we think are the best players at Georgia. This is not our personal rankings. It's not even necessarily what we think that would be. What this is that Pro Football Focus grades players on every play throughout the season and combines that into a total grade throughout the course of a season. We take those grades. Brent is an expert about really telling us what those are, how those get made, and we're just going down the list of any Georgia Bulldog that met a minimum number of snaps and graded 70 or above, or 1 through. You can go back and see Cedric Van Pran at number 23 on our list. And then now at number 22, we have Javon Bullard. Brent, did I miss
the reveal. No, that was awesome and perfect. I like the reveal. Like you tease, reveal. I like that.
It was great, other than people could also just see his name in the title of the YouTube video that they clicked on, which is fine.
Good point. Very good point. But still yet good. And the key, like you said, is that this is not our own personal ranking. This is not a who's most important. This is not who's best. This is just numeric order of going through that. And the key part for us is that we get to look at plays and we get to look forward to a season as opposed to looking back or looking at the draft like we did for the most part of March, February, March, and April. So this is where it's all right. The countdown, the 100 days, less than 100 days to kick off kind of thing is really, really close. And it's fun to actually be looking forward to what Georgia's going to have on the field.
Let's take a look back at Javon Bullard here in his recruiting. He 3-star cornerback from Milledgeville, Georgia. Drove through there quite a few times last week. When I have to take kids to grandparents, we go through Milledgeville. So Baldwin High School, shout out to you all down there. Bullard was recruit in the 2020 is when he signed. And so he's been here a year, a couple different defensive backs coaches, I should say. New and Fran Brown coaching him there will be a valuable piece. As Coach Donnan told us just last week on UGA Sports Live, you can never have enough cornerbacks.
Yeah, and it's one for him. And what's interesting with Bullard is that they've kind of put him, even in the snaps that he got this past season, they've put him a little bit everywhere. Some more so as the star, mainly as the star corner, the nickel corner, but still also some safety snaps. So his versatility is something that is going to help keep him possibly getting time this season.
5'11", 180 pounds. So he's not the tallest and longest necessarily, but Georgia's had a lot of guys of that profile that you start seeing the William Pooles of the world. You start seeing the Christopher Smiths that. He ain't quite as rangy as a Smith, but this is a guy that's probably trying to go down that route of let's get reps early and see how long we can play here.
And just continues to exist and evolve in the strength program too. That you're going to see that, maybe be 190 pounds of just chiseled beast, I guess you could say, by the time that he's another year or two into it.
You're saying that body fat percentage is going to be quite low on Mr. Bullard.
Yes.
Did play in 14 of 15 games last year, had 12 tackles total, which is a point that I did want to make before we get to the film here, is that this is a very interesting duo to kind of start us out, where you have Cedric Van Pran, who was obviously a high-volume player for Georgia. How many snaps?
Key component. Starter every game.
Yeah, and Javon Bullard, not that. Most of the plays that we're going to show you, it was in Georgia's garbage time. He was not relied on in that way. So this is not saying that Javon Bullard is a better player than Cedric Van Pran. This is saying in the plays that they were graded in, which in Javon Bullard's case, you see this at the screen here, 138 total snaps. That's a couple games for Cedric Van Pran. So let's remember the sample size and the volume of plays here, because that means a lot. Cedric Van Pran will be relied on much more this season than Javon Bullard, but on the plays that we saw Bullard on the field, and again, this is against offenses that in a lot of cases were already not motivated to perform their best, sometimes running out the clock. A lot of circumstances go into it. What this is saying is, for the most part, he played pretty well.
When he played well. He played very solid, above average that you can say. And when you look at his snap counts, he had 6 games with double-digit snaps. UAB, South Carolina, Vandy, Arkansas, Missouri, Charleston Southern. The most snaps he played was against Charleston Southern. So this is a guy who was obviously a rotational player a year ago. But the key for us is, every player, every game, or every play of every game. So when he played pretty well. So that kind of hopefully projects future performance as well.
Garbage time came early against Arkansas, and you see him up at the top of the formation.
And if you're going to play star in Georgia's defense and you're going to be the nickel corner, inside guy, you have to be physical. It's a prerequisite. You cannot play if you are not physical on the outside. And here he is holding his ground, keeping good leverage, and making a play here against Arkansas.
He comes to the line of scrimmage, very much undersized in this matchup. And like you said, fights for his leverage, helps the play.
And that's when you make plays like that. All right, that now you get to see the field a few more times, and he did in this game against Vanderbilt. He's at the bottom of the screen here, and kind of goes off the screen for a little bit, but you can see that he quickly beats the block on this play.
You can kind of barely see his helmet. He stays there, beats the block
there, and then
comes down and makes the tackle.
And when we think about what do you want when you see limited snaps? What do you want to see? One, you want to see, do you look competent? And are you physical? Is there any fear factor? Is there any hesitation? And he did not play with any of those. Like, he was very physical when he played, very confident. Now, his eyes, and as we'll see in the next few plays, his eyes kind of got him in trouble a little bit. But he had 12 tackle attempts, 8 tackles, 4 assists, 0 missed tackles. So that's why you see the high tackling grade.
When I saw the plays of him, he's a smooth runner.
Yep, quick.
Doesn't look like there's a lot of effort involved, but he gets to where he needs to get to. I was very impressed.
And here, when you think about this play, now the quarterback helps him, but he's in the slot. Nakobe's coming out, gets his eyes sort of on the back, and then whoop, by you. And this is where you think, we look at PFF grade versus what actually happened here is he's beat. Like, the ball should, in essence, come out like right now. And the quarterback shuffles backwards a few steps and just throws a lob ball that he, by the way, does a very good job of recovering and being physical at the catch point. Doing
the
sort of best
interference, I believe, though.
Yeah, and that's, this is where you think, all right, where you got to get better. That's eye discipline, things like that. But also, this was against Missouri, was a game where he saw snaps early in the game. Like, I think these were, late first quarter, even maybe early into the second quarter snaps that he was getting. That any other game, obviously you see Nakobe on the field there. Any other game, he's with the remainder of the backups in a lot of the other games.
And the other thing, this is against Arkansas again. Can't get beat deep, not in the SEC.
And I think this play was with less than 30 seconds maybe left in the game. So that's when you look at sort of PFF grading, what impacts things. Well, this is every play of every game. Obviously, this was garbage time, but still yet for himself, it's hard to see on this angle. You see it maybe on another angle if we had it, but gets a little flat-footed. And at that moment, when he got flat-footed thinking, all right, maybe I'm getting an inside route or something, he gets beat. Now, you got to recover, and the quarterback doesn't make a good enough throw to get a touchdown play. But he's beat there, negatively graded. Coverage, the coverage grade goes down for that. But for him, what you saw from him and the good part with him is that you saw enough that he can be a contributor this year, depending upon how the room shakes out. Because one, is Tyke Smith going to be healthy?
Right.
And then where do they, do they feel comfortable with a Lassiter or one of the true freshmen possibly that comes in on the outside? I think you're probably going to see Kamari Lassiter be the guy, at least initially, on the outside, unless something else dictates that. But like last year, they thought, Tyke Smith comes in, and then instantaneously he's gone for the season. So Bullard's ability to play the star, and then also possibly be a depth guy at a safety role, he's going to be on the field, and he might be the dime defensive back. That when they go to 6 and bring somebody else, he might be the guy who plays inside, or he might be the guy who plays in the slot in their dime coverages.
Even in a year where they won the national championship, the Georgia Bulldogs shifted around that secondary virtually the entire season. And you saw William Poole go in, then you saw him come out, then you saw him go back in. You saw Christopher Smith kind of get shuffled around. If he would have been healthy, maybe he gets moved to star the whole time. What if Tyke Smith doesn't get hurt? What I'm saying is that I think we feel pretty confident that at corner, you're looking at whoever is going to be behind Ringo. And I think Lassiter, you're right, has a step up at that spot. But then you start getting into guys that we'll see on this list, and maybe some that we won't, when you look at a guy like Nyland Green that didn't play a whole lot but has talent. And then you mentioned these true freshmen coming in. Those are going to be players that Javon Bullard has to show, not only am I athletic enough to keep the spot over you, and in some cases this guy's a lot longer than him, but my experience is going to be a thing that you're going to have to overcome to beat me for reps on that depth chart. Because if you're underperforming, especially at defensive back at Georgia, you'll get pulled off the field very quickly.
Yep. And then the last sort of key part with him is the last thing that's listed on the screen there. 108 special team snaps. Kick return, kick coverage. He was on them. Like, those guys are valuable. Those things matter. And I think if you have a healthy Arian Smith potentially returning kicks, it's really going to matter.
Very much so. Javon Bullard, I think, will be a good piece for Georgia, one that not necessarily have to be polished this season. But, here's a guy that if he does the things that he's supposed to do this year, maybe he gets more playing time. But especially if he does those things, who knows what happens going into, say, a next year as the portal does its thing, as, Keely Ringo will be going pro after this season. Set yourself up for future years. I think that's where we're at with Javon Bullard. Where he is on the PFF list of returning grades for Georgia, number 22. So that means that we have 21 more Bulldogs to discuss, and you can check those out right here on our UGA Sports YouTube channel. For Brent Rollins, I am Dayne Young, saying make sure you're subscribed to what we're doing here, both on our YouTube channel, but then also go check us out over at ugasports.com, where we will have more content from our film reviews. And then frankly, that's kind of the icing on the cake. The bread and butter of ugasports.com is the dog vet. That's where all the magic is. And with all the things happening in the SEC offseason, we've had a lot to chat about over there. And so you need to be part of that discussion. So come check us out at ugasports.com. I'm not just saying that we're great. The numbers are proving it over on YouTube, wherever you're watching this. Our YouTube channel is the most popular Georgia Bulldogs YouTube channel on the whole platform. And we're really proud of that. So we're going to tell you every episode. For Brent Rollins, I'm Dayne Young. We'll see you next time.